Joining us now is Lieutenant Colonel Hal Kempfer. He's retired Marine Corps intelligence officer and president of Global Risk Intelligence and Planning, a strategic risk management firm. A mouthful of titles there, Hal. Good to see you again today on this Tuesday. I want to jump right into this. We hear the National Guard is being deployed. What does this look like? Because when we say this, some people may think there's going to be people with guns and helmets walking around, barricades. What does that look like when we hear the National Guard will be implemented in states?
Sean, what it means is the National Guard is being basically activated under state authority. That's it's interesting. I've seen that a lot where they're saying the federal government is bringing out the National Guard. Technically, the governors have activated them. However, under the Stafford Act, 75% of their cost for being activated is covered by the federal government. So it's something, if you work defense support civil authorities, it's a pretty clear distinction because they're under state authority. Now, for the mission here, you probably won't see a lot of guns. You probably won't see a lot of helmets. What they're doing is mostly logistic support. Here in California, for example, where I'm sitting, it's working food distribution. And that's one of the many missions, far aside from war fighting, anything done with guns or something like that. One of the many missions that the Guard is well suited to do. And they also have some special Homeland Security units that can provide some unusual capabilities that are kind of unique to the Guard.
You talk about logistics in terms of what the National Guard will be doing. What are some examples of logistics that the National Guard will be implementing in various states, just to get an idea?
Sean, among many of the things they can do, for example, food distribution here in California, but also you have a highly trained, organized unit, if you will, or units that can go out there and do things like basically augment law enforcement with some of the more basic things like containing an area, which is one of the things they did back in New York, which was basically surrounding an area where there'd been an outbreak and providing that extra force level for basically, guarding roads or blocking roads to keep people from coming in or going out, potentially getting infected, contaminated. That's a mission they can do. A lot of logistics missions, engineer support, building things. It's not just the Army Corps of Engineers, which Governor Cuomo talks about. There's a lot of elements within the larger Department of Defense, but also within the Guard, where they can build small cities very quickly if they have to, and these are typical missions you'll see.
Okay, good answer there. I want to ask you this. Last night, the president gave a press conference, and he talked about wanting to open all of America, essentially, but it's the governors that asked for those to stay in place. So what does that look like? When the president says, hey, I want to open America, but does he need the governors to actually do that? Kind of explain that to us.
Sean, as near as I can tell, yes. The president can sign executive orders, but the governors actually have a lot of latitude in that regard. And it was the governors that imposed their stay-at-home orders, and therefore it's the governors that should be lifting the stay-at-home orders. I don't know under the current system. When you get into public health, it's rather interesting. Public health directors have a tremendous amount of authority when there's a public health crisis. So they can actually impose these things. So even though technically the governors are doing it, it's done under the auspices, if you will, of public health or public health directors. So they actually have the authority that's needed to do things like stay at home and to close businesses and things like that. So essentially, I don't know that the president can order businesses open. He can coordinate. He can certainly cajole, if you will, the governors to try and do that. But ultimately, it's at the local or state level.
Yeah, a lot of people are wondering how that works. Well, I appreciate that. That is Lieutenant Colonel Hal Kempfer. He's a retired Marine Corps intelligence officer. Good to see you. Thanks.